My name is Ahmad Obaidat. I'm a nuclear engineer and the CEO and founder of Unihance company. Unihance is an edtech company, which is the first decentralized e-learning platform in the MENA region that bridges the gap between the academic output and the market demands. Besides, I'm an AI consultant for so many firms in the region and globally. And I would love from our panels and guests to give a brief introduction about themselves. Then we can dive deep in our panel. We can start, Dr. Omar.
Thank you. I am Omar Al-Jarrah, Vice President for Planning and Development for Arab Open University headquarters in Kuwait.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Professor Ali Khatibi from Malaysia, and I'm a Vice President of the postgraduate.
Hello everyone, I'm Hagar Rakha, Head of Research and Knowledge at Abdallah Al-Ghurair Foundation.
And I'll round this out. Hello, my name is Christine Lusser. I'm a cognitive neuroscientist by training, and now I work with the Minerva Project, where we try to create more innovative approaches to make learning more experiential and more relevant.
This is great. I think and I believe that we really make a really great mix from private sector to universities and from like NGOs and something between both of us. So I'm gonna start with the main concern right now, the university challenges, and especially AI, because right now everything is linked to artificial intelligence. So I'm gonna start with my first question. I'm gonna start with Dr. Khatibi. So according that we are entering the era of AGI, the artificial general intelligence, and that's why everybody's talking about artificial intelligence, especially the large language models. Now things are changing so fast, especially after the fourth industrial revolution, and I believe we are so close to enter the fifth industrial revolution. How do you see that university can reshape or revise the strategies to bridge the gap between the academic output and the market demand?
Thank you. It's a very interesting question when we are looking challenges any universities around the world are facing today in terms of the balancing between the AI and syllabi we are doing. What we are doing in my university, MSU, we are balancing this for the future development, especially we are looking to industry need. And now, biggest challenges for any university which I look from it is how we change the mindset of the academician. Industry is changing, technology is changing, but I have done some research for it, is because of the generation gap, we need to change our academician mindset to accept the changes is happening, to use for it, to bring it to the classroom. Sometimes, like yesterday, I was chatting with someone, he was saying that, oh, by using this, they are going to cheat. I said, no, they're not cheating. We should not put it on that perspective. We need to look about how to enhance the knowledge from it. All right? And technology is going to move forward. And as we see that there are a lot of talk nowadays in the societies telling the AI is taking job of the human. I said, no. AI is taking job of the human when the human cannot think anymore. If we develop our graduate, the future generations, they can do something better than what AI is doing or machine is doing, yes, the changes is going to be beautiful. But when we look into many academicians, we have done the research in Southeast Asia, all right? Many academicians still, they believe that we need to pull it back. They are concerned about it, nice. And they don't encourage. But personally, in my university, my own class, I do encourage. Why I encourage? Because it will put more challenges to the academician, how you build up yourself, how you keep upgrading yourself to facing the generation. And always I will say that those people that are disagree, they're worried about themselves. Because this generation, especially Z generation or Alpha generation, they're damn smart. They know everything. They got everything in their fingerprint. All right? And that is becoming challenges which I believe that what we need to do as an institution, we need to change the mindset of every academicians, every lecturers to accept and use it in the classroom. And we cannot get away from it.
Great. So, anybody would love to add any comment to the questions of Dr. Omar?
As you know, artificial intelligence is not new. And it's after 2023, with the generative AI and the introduction of ChatGPT-4, everything is changing.
Yes.
And I think it's our choice whether to adapt with this technology or we have to face it. All of our students now are using ChatGPT. So it is a big challenge for the university to change the mindset of the professors, of the faculty, as well as the environment, the university environment. So we have to prepare for an environment in which our students can leverage generative AI, our faculty can leverage generative AI, and this will advance and accelerate the pace of evolution.
Thanks a lot. Dr. Kristen, so I have another question for you. So most probably, we always blame the university for the output. Don't you believe that the private sector have to play a good role in enhancing the personalized learning for the university students during their academic journey and after graduate also?
So I think one of the things that is really interesting is that universities look very similar to how they used to, right? And so the market has changed wildly, and you walk into any university and it could be 100, 200 years ago. And so what we're trying to figure out as a society is how you educate people in a way that they can address those market needs while not letting go of all of the great things about universities, which is that they're a place for thoughts and ideas and experiences, how you can give people a sense of who they want to become and the things they want to contribute to society. And so when you think about how to balance what an industry need is with what an institution that's been around for 200 years and hasn't changed very much can do, you end up with a gap. And so the most interesting thing is how do you work with industry partners to say, what are the challenges you're facing? And a lot of academics, this goes back to the mindset that you were just mentioning, find that distasteful in some ways. They're like, we know what to teach. We have been doing this for a long time. They're built on their content knowledge. And it's not just that they don't want to change. It's that there is something a bit distasteful about saying all we're trying to do is produce people who can go off and be a cog in a corporate machine. The way to link those things together, I think, is to focus on durable skills, which are things universities are teaching anyway, but they're not highlighting particularly well. And so there needs to be more communication between what's happening inside of a university course and what's happening in industry so that that bridge can be closed, because the beginnings of it are already there. We just need to start speaking the same language.
I totally agree with you. I can't realize. So, Hajar, I have similar question, but in totally different perspective. So right now we hear a lot like the market is driven by skills. Market needs skills more than certificates. And I believe after a while we're gonna see the market is driven by tools. And for me, this is totally scary. It's not a good something that we are right now. We are changing the strategy for the university to start teaching skills regarding sharing knowledge and building a source knowledge with a real domain knowledge. Don't you feel, or don't you see this really impact the market vision in the future, that we are developing skills more than knowledge? And for example, we are developing AI developers, but we are not developing AI engineers.
Thank you so much, Ahmad, and all the panelists. This is exactly why it's very important to have these conversations. At Al Ghurair Foundation, we do a link between, let's say, the universities and the private sector. And I think I'm sitting in between by coincidence, but it says a lot. What we have seen in our journey to empower the youth is that the gap is really widening between the education outcome as what those students have learned through their education years and what the market really needs in terms of skills. This is, of course, it's getting, the gap is getting wider considering the dual transition that we are going through, the digital and the green. And we've seen, for example, in COP28, there was a lot of discussions about how to prepare the youth for the green transition. What are the types of jobs that will be created because in that transition? And part of that discussion, it cannot move on without universities, private sector, philanthropy organizations, and NGOs whose focus is on education. I think one of the things that we have tried to encourage is to focus on policy reform discussions, to focus also on practical research and collaborative research when it comes to design of new curriculums and new programs. Academic offerings need to be, again, revitalized to serve the needs of the market, and to feed into what the market really needs, and to try to close down more the skills gap that we are seeing increasing by the day.
Okay.
Can I add one thing to that?
Yeah, sure.
So I think one of the really interesting things that was said on the last panel with Michael Allen relates to what you were just saying, which is the story about what I assumed was Google, the company that he wouldn't name, that hired engineers who were really good coders, but they always got fired for things that were not related to the skill. So I think we often have to make a distinction between what kind of skills we're talking about, whether those are those rapidly changing technical skills, which we won't be able to keep up with as universities, and the durable skills that will help students become people who can keep up with those skills on their own with support from universities over time in much smaller sound bites. And so going back to those fundamental things like collaboration and breaking it down into specific tools that people can use, I think that's how we start to close that gap that you mentioned.
Absolutely.
I agree. Dr. Ali?
What we have done in my universities, which we get 99% employment on the spot after graduation, we have balanced between the knowledge and industry need. And how we close this gap for every single subject we teach to our students at all the level is compulsory to bring the industrials inside the classroom. For example, if I'm teaching the marketing, I need to bring the people from industry to teach, to share what is happening. And that is a continuation. And by doing this and involving the industries inside the universities and inside every subject, we have seen that the gap is becoming closer and closer. And that is where the success story of employment rate is coming up.
I agree. Dr. Omar, so my question is to you, most likely before 20 years, according to my memory, the market was driven by the universities. And right now, the universities are driven by the market. And this is totally scary for me. Because I believe after 10 to 20 years, the role of the university in this community will totally change. The market is controlling everything. Right now, big companies are creating knowledge, creating products. Right now, we have GPT-4 with 155 IQ. They can create knowledge, and they can analyze knowledge and consume knowledge like nobody do. So according to this, AI is replacing a lot of jobs. And a lot of jobs, especially after 2022, we're gonna see so many companies gonna be firing a lot of employees because of the artificial intelligence, especially the AGI. So what do you think universities should do? Especially by the strategy or the concept, or how we should redefine the university again according to Fourth Industrial Revolution.
Okay, thank you, Ahmed. When the Fourth Industrial Revolution started, we were talking about some of the jobs, like low-wage jobs or low-skill jobs, will be affected. Now, after the rise of generative AI last year, things are changing. Actually, almost all the jobs will be impacted, and some of the jobs will be outdated. New jobs like data engineers will be created and needed. So, and since it is our responsibility, major responsibility in university is to prepare our students for the job market, we have to provide them with a balance between knowledge, skills, and the credentials. And we have now, this is maybe new to universities, that we have now to introduce skills, and we have to introduce credentials, and credentials are very important. So now and this cannot be done without collaboration between the industry or the private sector and the university. So we will see in the future more collaboration in the curriculum development. And actually now we'll see also more effect or more adoption of interdisciplinary approach, where we combine IT or AI and generative AI with other disciplines like in law, in medicine, in art and design, in engineering. Now, for example, in healthcare and medicine, we will the AI or generative AI is transforming the medical diagnostics, personalized medicine, and the robotic surgery. Therefore, we need to train our healthcare students how to leverage and to use these tools. And also, the most important things is the ethical consideration and the socio-economic impact and implication of this technology. The university system has to change, and we will see. Actually, this transformation has started already, but we will see more transformation, like the university setup, the learning management system or the learning platform. We'll see more more research centers that are focusing on cutting-edge technology, and this cannot be done without close collaboration with industry. So we'll see a lot of acceleration in this area.
Okay, thanks a lot. Dr. Christine, back to you. So we see that university in the last 5-10 years, they did a lot about digital transformation in university, about e-learning and online content, but still we see that the output of the university is still not qualified as the old output. There's a gap that nobody can see. And maybe there's a gap, it might be in the generation. So let's talk about generation alpha. According to me, I see that there is a gap between the input of the university and the output of the university, not related to technology. It's related to mental health and well-being. What strategy should the university take into consideration to deal with the coming generation, which is totally different generation from the Z and the before generation?
This is a great question, and it's one that I'm really passionate about as somebody who studies the brain, so I appreciate you asking it. I have a counterintuitive answer, because I think that what we're seeing at universities across the world are more and more resources being poured into student services, student support, mental health and counseling. And that's not a bad thing. Mental health treatment saves lives, literally.
Yeah.
The challenge is thinking that you are treating the cause instead of the symptom. And so we need support services because people are coming to university immersed in technology that hasn't given them a chance to become a flexible thinker who's well adapted to a constantly complex, changing environment. And so I think it is almost malpractice for universities to outsource that to counseling staff rather than to go back to the purpose of education, which is to build humans who can thrive in the world that they'll inherit. And so when you think about what our purpose is as educators, it really has to be about preparing students for an uncertain, changing world. And the way that you do that is you give people a sense of agency and action that I think they're increasingly showing up at college lacking. And this is where you get a lot of depression and anxiety from, is the lack of social connection, the lack of being able to adapt, the sense that they're sort of alone and a little bit hopeless. Like when you get overwhelmed, that's a feeling. When you get overwhelmed and feel like you can't do anything about it, that's when it becomes a mental health issue. And that sense of helplessness can actually be fixed in the classroom if we design for the way that humans learn. And humans learn when they are equipped, empowered, and connected. So my favorite nerd theory, I'm going to go down a rabbit hole for a short second, is self-determination theory. It's old stuff from a group called Deci and Ryan. And they point out the framework for human motivation, the things that make people take action in the world are when they have three basic needs fulfilled. And that's the need for competence, the need for autonomy, and the need for social belongingness. And education for so long has focused on competence, and it's done it in such a way that we sort of want people to have knowledge and skills, but we kind of force feed it to them, and then we ask them to regurgitate it, and then we stack people against each other instead of saying, what are the things you need to thrive, and how can I give that to you in your learning experiences? So if we knew that the goal was to make humans who are capable and adaptive, and we knew that the levers to pull on were helping people feel competent, helping them feel as though they have autonomy, and helping them feel connected to a social group, we would design learning experiences that looked entirely different. So in some of our work with Zayed University, we're trying to pull people into professional experiences that are giving them that sense of competence and that confidence to go out and tackle a challenge that they choose. In a project with the MISC Foundation and Asade, we built 2030 leaders intentionally around the social connections that we want these really high-achieving professionals to make, not because we think it's going to make them more competent, but because we think it's going to help them get information from their social group in a really meaningful way and make them feel supported. So none of those programs were built to fix a mental health epidemic.
I agree with you.
But they all contribute to fixing the cause of it rather than just putting a Band-Aid on some of the symptoms. So I think we need to rethink the purpose and the process of education and what we spend our time in the classroom doing so that we can come back and have these experiences that are much more holistic, and that will help well-being amongst Generation Alpha, who is definitely coming in unprepared. In about 3 years, it's going to be a problem.
Thanks
and I think
a lot.
it's fixable.
Thanks, Dr. Christian. Back to you, Dr. Ali. So, related to Dr. Christian's question, do you think or do you believe that universities should put a priority for mental health above emerging technology in the university curriculum? Because this case and this issue is still not taking into consideration to any university as a priority. And according to the last insights, the mental health and well-being for the new generation, it should be a priority for the university and the main focus.
Thank you. It's a hot topic now on this mental health issue. I will put it from two angles. One, I'm writing my latest book on neuromarketing with a brain surgeon. I'm working on it. And recently I was in Jakarta and I was giving the talk. I said, okay, let's pull it back. Everybody blaming the university because of the mental health issue and so on. Why not we go back to find out the root of the mental health? And in many of my speeches, I blame the parents. When this alpha generation is growing up, and from the time they open their eyes, they are in the machines, and when they cry, the parents is giving the mobile to them to playing the game or watching the movies or cartoon, and they're growing with this. And there is no interaction between the parents and children. And these kids, they are growing up, all right? And that is the issue of root of mental health issues. And they're coming up. Now, what we do at the university, we have taken very serious measure, and we are engaging with the students very regularly, all right? And we have come up with a session is, for few of us, no one can touch the mobiles. Mm-hmm. Coming for activities, coming for the event, all right, no mobile. And slowly we are engaging more and more with them to find out is bring them back to the real life, talking to the human, not talking to the machine. But to me, any institution, we should not take it easy. Because if some of the statistics is not coming up, suicide, drugs, and many issues is on the rise all over the world, all right? But we have managing so far, alhamdulillah, and thanks God, we have reached to the stages. We find that when we are more closer to the students, mentoring them, talking to them, engaging with them, we are not facing that issues. But is the challenges? How many academicians they like to be coming, like some of my colleagues, as a babysitting? You know, do you engage to the babysitting? I told them you need to take it as your own kid. You need to take it as your own family members. All right? But what is important is, as a university, what we look is that is we need to go back to the basic, more closer to the student. All right? We cannot blame everything back to the universities. We need to balance between the society and the university, how we can work together to overcome these mental health issues.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Ali. Hajar, related to the last point that Dr. Ali mentioned, we should not always blame the university, and I agree with him. So, most likely, why we always put the blames on the university for the output in the market, not the high school or the early stage of education? And I believe it's more important than the university. So, how we can build a bridge between the early stage, the high school, and the university to enhance the input of the university. Because as you know, bad inputs, it's equal to bad output.
Right.
So the university output is related totally to the higher education input. So how we can, as a foundations and as a university entities, education entities overall, to highlight this point, because it's totally important.
I think the disconnect happens because the focus in the education institutions is on education and the society focus on the societal issues. I think there needs to be more integration between the two somehow. For example, we sometimes receive actually students, university students, and we talk to them about the work of philanthropy. We take them to meet beneficiaries and other learners. We take them to see some of the real challenges that are happening in life, and it makes a connection in their mind between what they are studying and how they can potentially serve their communities afterwards. So I think the start is really to look at the education output as how that will feed into addressing the challenges that we are all facing, whether it's climate, in health, in education, in AI. But like the focus now is very much on one track. And normally we are sort of like dropping the other tracks, and then we are surprised at the end of the day why these are separate. It's like we're working in separate islands, and it's becoming more of silos. One of the things also that was mentioned is the credentials, and it's very important, and it's something also that we have been working on with the Ministry of Education and other universities, is to work on more micro-credentials that are flexible, that can provide skills-based and are market responsive in a way that it makes this connection happens. And some of those micro-credentials, we don't need to abandon the excellent academic quality of the academic offerings. On the contrary, we can leverage on that in a way that will serve the education output, which is like graduates who are ready for the professional life. There was also one thing that Professor Ali mentioned about mentorship, and I think mentorship, if I can reflect on that, is very crucial in today's landscape. Students and like Generation Alpha, but also the last years of Generation Z, they're faced with so many countless options every day. And sometimes they feel lost, they need guidance, they need advice in a way that not definitely controlling or directing them towards something, but more of like helping them to discover their potential among all the countless options that they see every day in their surrounding. So yeah, I think also one of the things that I would like, and this might be like a call for collaboration, is to consider philanthropy and NGOs as partners in the education system. Mm-hmm. And depending, of course, on the fields of study, on everything, but having this connection to the real world problems will also help alleviate some of the mental health issues that Dr. Christine was speaking about. It will help make this connection to the real world and not always see the things from afar.
Doctor, I agree with you. Going back to Dr. Omar. So, we discussed the mental health and we discussed the technology impact and how universities should deal with both of them. Right now, I'm going to mention something that is totally important too. This generation learn everything fast. So, for example, this generation, this is a social media generation that he's totally like wants everything on time. He's the reels generation. He's dealing with everything in one click. So right now he have access to any source of knowledge in any time. In the future, this generation will blink and he will go online through the metaverse. Right now, let's discuss the fast learning process. Don't you believe that universities should establish or add some material to their curriculum how to teach the new generation how to learn things fast? Because according to the evolution of the market, and this market start to develop in a really accelerated way, so we need to develop a new generation that have the fast learning skills. So what do you think about it?
Thank you, Ahmed. First of all, if we look at the characteristics of Generation Alpha, they are born in the digital age, in the age of rapid technological development. As you mentioned, they are immersed in a digital world of automation, AI, and metaverse. They learn fast. They are creative in nature, collaborative. This put a lot of challenge on the university. First of all, we have now to develop a personalized educational system. This generation will need more personalized, interactive, and engaging digital platform that will leverage AI and generative AI in the delivery. For example, now at Arab Open University, we are working with Aeon Reality, which is a leading provider, AI provider, and VR provider. To create content to the student using generative AI. It will be curated on the fly to the student. It will be adapted. There is an automated assessment, and the material will be presented to the student using an AI assistant. And using this, the student can even have an internship in the metaverse. This kind of platform, or the platform of the future, we have to consider in all universities. This is the first aspect. The second aspect is that this generation will be more interdisciplinary than any other generation. Therefore, we have to focus on interdisciplinary approach in teamwork, collaborative project, where we engage with industry. They like to work on real world problems, so we have to work with the industry to create such an environment. Finally, this generation will have more knowledge than we can imagine. Therefore, we have to rethink the value of the university degree. They are fast. They want to go to the job market faster, so they require faster educational system where the micro credentials, stackable micro credentials, and not any micro credentials. Micro credentials, of course, that are developed in collaboration with the industry, skill-based micro credential. So we need an educational system reform at the university and outside the university.
Thanks a lot. You totally surprised me with your answer, because there's so many things you mentioned I have no idea about, and this is really great. It was really useful. So, Dr. Kristen, related to Dr. Omar's question. So, right now we mentioned how we need to put a new curriculum, how to deal with the new generation. What about the teaching staff, the professors? Don't you believe that professors need to have like a curriculum also to enhance their quality of knowledge sharing and knowledge delivery? For example, if you go to the university, most likely you see that currently there's a privilege for the student on the professors because they have more access to knowledge, they deal more with technology better than the professors, and beside, most of the university professors, they are lack from technical experience in the market and the industry, and this gives the privilege for the student. Don't you believe that the university should focus also on this plan and force the professors and the doctors in the university to go and to join the market for 2 or 3 years to gain practical experience, to share practical and technical knowledge with the university students?
It is a very provocative question about forcing faculty to do anything. I am from a very traditional academic background. I wanted to be a faculty member, an academic my entire life. I wanted to be left alone in my office with my books. I didn't want to have anyone tell me what to do. And I think that this goes back to the mindset of faculty in terms of the way we have trained academics to be experts in their field perfectly correlates with people who want to be independent operators. But a university is not a collection of independent operators. It is a collective institution that needs to coordinate its actions to achieve its goal of educating students. And so there's a fine line between forcing anyone to do something, like go out and have industry experience before you teach, but university leaders can hire certain kinds of people. They can create incentive structures to make sure that people are doing the things that are for the collective good. I'm going to tell a very short story, which is that when I was first starting at Minerva, I helped build the business college, and all of our curriculum at Minerva University is really integrated. Any Minerva program is built around durable skills that all faculty have to be fluent in because that's what the grading system is based on. And so we build our lesson plans with this common language of skills so that the things I use in my class can be used in your class and used in your class. And it gives students practice with something like understanding what cognitive bias is and why it's important, both in writing science papers as well as in ethical decisions about the way to use AI. Mm-hmm. And so when you have that common language, you essentially give up a little bit of that individual agency, but you gain systemic change. And it was very funny, early on I got asked by one of my colleagues, don't I feel like this independent operator, and isn't it cool to have my own little startup and you're building whatever you want in business college? And I was like, I don't build whatever I want. It feels very constrained in some ways. But when I compare it to what I did when I was teaching in a traditional university, where I had sort of eminent domain to do whatever I wanted, I was never going to change the way that Harvard operated. Whereas when you have a collection of people who are working together towards a common goal, not a bunch of independent operators, you give up that individual agency for systemic influence, and that's what's going to give the best outcomes for students. So if your question, if you pushed me on it and said, should we force faculty to go get real jobs? I think I would say no, but I think you should build your institution in a way that gives people a clear path to doing the thing that you want the institution to accomplish.
Thanks a lot. Dr. Ali.
What we do in my universities is every 6 months we have a skill development for academicians. We upgrade them what they need to do, how the technology changing. We do training for them. But one of the things which we have seen is becoming very challenges on AI and so on. And we are pushing our academicians. Yes, we need to teach technology, we need to teach them about industry need, but we emphasize in the very, very important factor on the values. What I have seen that in many universities, we keep talking about ChatGPT, AI and everything, but values is not there. And this issues of corruption, unethical activities is coming up from this generation, when they don't taught the values to them. And that is what is becoming important to us as MSU. Personally, I do this. I just share with that with all of you. I think as an educationist, academician, we need to take social responsibility. What I have done with a group of academicians, we do provide training, workshop for industry, especially service industry. Now, for example, in Malaysia, we have nearly about 27 restaurants. They give about 10 to 20% discount on your bill. But as soon as you enter, there is a plastic. You need to put all your handphone and seal it. and you're not allowed to use the phone. You will get a discount. And slowly, we are changing the mindset and we're making the people to interact with each other. And personally, I believe to the values. I just shared it with, when we were discussing about the talk, I promised to you I'm going to share my experience on last November, how values is important. As a visiting professor in Japanese university for over 20 years, and I go every March and November, and I need to pass through the station to go to my hotel. And as my habit on November strawberry season, I love to go to particular coffee shop and having the strawberry cake with the coffee. Last November, I was a little bit late, cake was finished. And the girl behind the counter, she knows me about 10 years. And she knows I'm from Malaysia. And I pointed to her, I said, I want this chocolate cake. She crossed her hand and she told me in Japanese, cannot, because I speak a little bit about it. I said, why? I want chocolate. She says, no. I said, why? She told me it got alcohol inside. You see the value of how important it is. How we can train the next generation. Yes, they need to understand the technology. They need to understand everything. But must not forget about the values. That is what we believe at MSU.
Value is totally important. So I think we have 4 minutes, and I have a question for Dr. Omar. It's going to be the last question. So there's a responsibility for the university beside building and develop a great generation for the future about research and innovation. Most likely, we are totally right now dealing with a closed box. We are dealing with closed box, large language model, closed box internet. So all the technology that we are using right now, especially in our Arabic countries, are closed box. So one day, if any big company want to turn the APIs off, we are out of business. And this is totally scary. So what is the university role to start put more investment to create, for example, our own large language model? Because everything right now is linked to this beast, this LLM. All workflow, all a process is going to be the node of the large language is going to be a process of it. So if it's going to be closed box for us, we are out of control, out of business.
Well, if we talk about the technical aspect of large language models, any country can build their own large language models. And I think I learned recently, actually, that in UAE, they are building now their own system. And I think in KSA, they are building their own system. As you know, the challenge is not the research or the infrastructure. When you talk about large language model, the challenge is the data, because any system, the quality of the output depends on the data.
But we have data.
You have the data. The more data that you have, the more accurate the system will. I think we will see that the birth of some large language models based, localized in the Arab region. And I think this will protect our local industries that are based on their APIs, like on ChatGPT or other large language models. So I think the university role is not, because this is a huge investment. So this is a country policy, not a university policy.
It's a country policy.
It's a country policy. Actually, and I want to reflect on the last question, because I think an educational system is a system. System has inputs, process, and output. Faculty, the process is the environment, and the faculty, the curriculum. All of these things has to be work in harmony together. So if you have the best student, the best system, and the faculty is not prepared, the output will be impacted. It's a huge challenge now with the rapid change of technology to train our faculty. Universities have to invest in this, And because we know that there almost most of the universities, they have faculty professional development center, or however they are working on the classical issues like just you need this training for a promotion or whatever. We are not targeting the core issue. Now things are evolving, things are changing. ChatGPT, whether we like it or not, it is being used by all the students. However, they are not being used by the faculty as it is by the students. We have to train our faculty ethics and ethical implication and the plagiarism issue. Actually, the assessment, in terms of assessment, with the rise of ChatGPT, universities have to reconsider the way we assess the students. Classical assessment will be available on ChatGPT. Therefore, a lot of research and ongoing effort now in universities how to adapt and change our assessment system so that we can cope up with technology. If we keep our assessment system in the classical way, the output will be like in Corona, everyone will pass. So we have now to change, to train the faculty, change our assessment system, create a policy. Forcing a faculty is an easy word, but I don't like the keyword forcing. The system, if we change the system, the faculty will change. You have to create the mindset and the system. It will be part of the quality assurance system. If we have a right quality assurance system and the right audit and monitoring system, I think the faculty will change right away.
Thanks a lot, Dr. Omar. Thanks a lot, Dr. Ali. Thanks a lot, Hajar. Thanks a lot, Dr. Christine. It was really fruitful and joyful panel, and I believe that we're gonna continue discussing everything outside because there's a panel after this panel immediately. So I don't know if there's time for questions or